man. If y'all can give me just half a second to get ready.
Should I start?
Okay.
Geez, Dan.
Sorry, I'm blanking out on one of your names right
My name is Kirby.
Bridget.
now. Thanks.
Pretty
Wait,
easy.
and Kirby's the negative?
I am the negative. That's why I'm on this side.
Alright, thanks.
Alright, now we're gonna all
I'm not ready.
come on.
Oh, shit.
One more time.
I just got, I'm bleeding a lot. Huge regret. No, that's, I don't like that.
So your saliva is literally meant to upregulate foods, yeah. And it's your own blood. It's not like you're gonna get disease from it.
I think I'll get there.
That's what's gonna happen.
Okay,
Yeah.
6 minutes, right?
We're ready, Bobby.
You do this. I believe in you.
I was just about to say. I know.
No, you're fine.
Okay. The current federal regulations on genetically modified organisms are not sufficient because they don't address potential health and environmental concerns. Charles W. Schmidt writes for the Environmental Health Perspectives in 2005. U.S. regulatory agencies demand only that agrobiotech companies demonstrate a GM crop share GM crop shares equivalent composition and nutritional status to its conventional counterpart, apart from the transgenic protein. If it meets this criteria, the crop is considered as safe as the conventional variety, and companies are free to sell it. Crops that contain a pesticidal protein, such as Bt toxin, must undergo mandatory allergenicity testing coordinated by the Environmental Protection Agencies. All other GM traits are evaluated by voluntary consultations with the FDA. And Garcia and Alteri in 2005 write for the Bulletin of Science and Technology and Society. GM crops may potentially affect the fitness of other species, population dynamics, ecological roles and interactions, promoting local extinctions, population explosions, and changes in community structure and function inside and outside agroecosystems. And if action is not taken to monitor and study the potential negative environmental harms, then there's a better chance they'll become more widespread. So the current use of genetically modified crops and technologies has raised questions about the potential health and environmental harms of GMO crops. Therefore, I stand resolved that the U.S. federal government should create legislation mandating EPA and FDA testing on developing GMO products and technologies to find potential for long-term health and environmental harms. Products that present potential health and environmental risks will be excluded from the marketplace until the product or technology qualifies qualities that cause potential negative health and environmental impacts are modified and negated. The already existing products will be allowed to stay on the market because the potential public health harms, including increased food insecurity, decrease of crop production, of regulating products and technologies, outweigh the potential public health benefits of removing GMO products now. And the most recent scientific scholarly evidence, as reported by The Economist in 2014 is that GM crops have large, widespread benefits. Commercial genetic modification for crops comes in two forms. One makes them resistant to insect pests, the other confers tolerance to glyphosate, enabling farmers to spray their fields with herbicide and kill off all the other plants, i.e. weeds. And then as a consequence, the study found herbicide-tolerant crops have lower production costs, though this is not true for insect-resistant crops, where the need for less pesticide was offset by higher seed prices, and overall production costs were thus about the same as for unmodified crops. With both forms of modification, however, the yield rise is so great, 9% above non-GM crops for herbicide tolerance and 25% above for insect resistance, that farmers who adopted GM crops made 69% higher profits than those who did not. So right now, there are not proven conclusive environmental harms, but as a proactive measure to stop potentially unsustainable future products and potentially health harmful products, we'll create regulations and guidelines to ensure that all GMO products and technologies that are being developed don't create environmental or health harms. And the regulation of these developing products and technologies will preserve the current success of GMOs within the marketplace. Or do I still have a lot left? Oh, that's all I've got. Did that make sense? It looked better on paper.
No, that makes sense.
Alright, wait.
And the cross-examination is 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Give us
Stand
6
up.
minutes. Much I want to talk about. You mentioned that most GM testing is through volunteers. Can you see the source for that? Or volunteer organizations?
Yeah, it's from the Bulletin of Science, Technology, and Society.
There's that.
Sorry, from Environmental Health Perspectives.
Okay. And so that only applies to what exactly?
Current GM products or technologies.
So, but you also mentioned that the FDA regulates foods that are in pesticides.
It regulates foods that are,
Enhanced with pesticides.
yeah,
So things that are most potentially harmful.
yes. I
Okay.
mean, it's kind of more complicated than that, right? But, yes.
Okay. And then so these volunteer regulators, who are they made up of? Do you know, or
I mean,
is it
bioag.
people?
Yeah,
Okay.
businesses.
And you said that there isn't any kind of, there hasn't been any documented environmental impacts?
There's studies that show potential risks.
Potential risks, but no actual impacts.
Right.
Do you have any information on potential costs for your plan? So looking at if you change things to mandate to the EPA, right, like you said, with time constraints and how do you know how much do you project that would cost and what would be the means you go through?
Well, as you were asking, right now the EPA does regulate a lot of these products to some extent. So it would just be additional funding, like it wouldn't be creating a whole new subset or department, but it would be, I mean, relatively affordable.
Do you have any information suggesting that, or is that just your projections?
Just my projections.
All right. Well, I have no further questions.
Kirby, do you want to use your part time?
I would like, we have 4 minutes on total, right? I would like to use 2 minutes.
Okay, okay.
And just warn me at the minute marks, not the 30 seconds. And this is 7 minutes. All right, let's see what I can do. Evening. My opponent has stated that she would like to see, or that federal regulation is too low, that GMOs are potentially environmentally and unfriendly and can produce significant harms to human health. Yet none of these accusations are founded in facts and miss the larger point that GMOs can help greater world food security, which is an extremely pressing problem at the moment. I would like to propose that rather than spending more money to slow down the production and expansion of potentially helpful GMO products that she herself has admitted have widespread benefits, including low production costs, high yields, and relatively few, if any, environmental harms. And I totally lost my train of thought. And maintain the system as it is for regulating GMOs. We've noted that GMOs are regulated through the FDA, particularly when pesticide or pest-resistant strains are developed. The FDA has relatively stringent regulations, according to my opponent, and shows who has already conceded that these are the most harmful the most potentially harmful of all GMO products. She's also noted that corporate oversight has played a large part in GMO production, and according to National Geographic and Dan Euclid in this very bad note, the basic concept of big aerosol works, but needs refinement. According to Foley, National Geographic, in I think it's 2005. Those who favor conventional agriculture talk about how modern mechanization, irrigation, fertilizers, and improved genetics can increase yields and help meet demand. They are right. Meanwhile, proponents of local organic farms counter that the world's smaller farms could increase yields plenty, and help themselves out of poverty. By adopting techniques that improve fertility without synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, they're right to. But it needn't be an either-or proposition. Both approaches offer badly needed solutions. Neither one alone gets us there. We would be wise to explore all of the farms and blend the best of both. Furthermore, the impact of higher rising food prices contribute to higher instances of food insecurity throughout the world, according to the U.S. government. Government funding can support. Large-scale conventional farms are better for producing the basis of caloric intake. This is from Revkin, New York Times, 2012. Organic has a lot of ground to make up in the major grains, especially staples like rice and wheat. We have found that organic farms have significantly lower yields than their conventional counterparts. And since most of the world's bulk calories come from these cereals, this is a really big deal. Organic practices, as we know them today, cannot produce the same volume of grain calories that conventional farms do on the same land base. This assumes, of course, that our goal is to grow calories, which is only one measure of food production and the only aspect of food, only one aspect of food security. Bottom line, today's organic farming practices probably best deployed in fruit and vegetable farms where growing nutrition is not bulk calories as the primary goal. This essentially tells us that if we are to look to our exports for providing food security for the wider world population, most of the aid that we send out as the United States comes from it comes in the form of grains, rather than trying to send things like fruits and vegetables which spoil quickly. And so if we want to create better food security throughout the world, we're going to have to keep up these traditional farming methods that we utilize, that are the ones that have used GMOs. And as we've shown earlier, there's relatively little harms from any of these, and the benefits are great. It's put together so well in my head. I'm very nervous.
Is this the question?
Yeah, we have 3 minutes for cross.
Okay. So you kind of made the assumption that like stricter, or that regulations of technologies and products that are in development will slow down production and will decrease the speed at which we're
Advancing.
advancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you directly correlated that with increasing food security. Do you think it's causational, or is it possible, this is a terrible question,
Okay.
it's correlational with the methods of distribution? Do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like, do you think it's a potentially erroneous assumption that food security will be increased by an increase in caloric output?
Well, I mean, you need calories to live. It's the basic unit of energy. And so if we really want to secure food security, maybe not just nutritional security, that would be like a secondary aspect of food security, but making sure that people have enough calories to live, you're going to want to continue using methods that are already working, like we've seen in Foley and in Revkin. The scale of organic farms is just too small right now, and they can make changes over time, but that's not going to meet the demands of the growing population fast enough. So it's better to utilize what we can right now without trying to slow down the process and make, because there's, those people who are starving right now can't wait. Those people who are in food security can't wait for stricter regulations that are pretty much redundant, as we showed, with how the FDA already covers the most potentially harmful ones, and the environmental risks are virtually non-existent.
So if we get rid of organic farms and replace them with farms with higher production rates, that will lead to less food insecurity?
No, I'm not proposing we get rid of organic farms. It's not an either-or solution. It's if we over-regulate our main sources of caloric production, we're bound to create greater food insecurity.
And you said there was either few or no to relatively few environmental harms.
You conceded that yourself.
Right, but I'm saying you can see there are potential environmental harms.
Potential, but they're not outweighed by the risks to human lives and food insecurity.